Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining. We are really excited that you all are here today. We received more than 130 registrations for this webinar, which shows how relevant and important this topic is. We are really happy that you're here today. My name is Lisa Jäger. I work for the TUM Venture Labs Sustainability and Circular Economy. The reason why we set up this format is because we know that entrepreneurship can be really exciting, but also really demanding. Studies show that more than 70% of the founders struggle with some mental health issues like anxiety, depression, and sometimes burnout. We realize that there currently is no format in the market addressing this for a larger audience. So we are really grateful for this collaboration with the Yope Foundation today, and that we have Andy and Michael here sharing their stories and the tools they apply in their daily lives to maintain a strong mental and physical health. So we believe that a resilient mind is really the foundation to business success, to long-term growth, and to well-being as well. Before I hand over to Andy and Michael now, I will briefly take the opportunity to introduce the TUM Venture Labs for the ones who don't know us yet. So the TUM Venture Labs are your go-to place for deep tech and life sciences ideas to turn them into scalable business models. What makes us very unique is that we have 12 different domains, which are all interconnected with each other. So in whatever field your startup operates in, we will have experts for you. The TUM Venture Labs are a joint venture between TUM and Unternehmertum. We have a wide and global ecosystem of universities, organizations, startups, venture capital, and foundations, with Yope being one of our partners. Our offering is really tailored to your individual needs, whether it is infrastructure, lab spaces, office spaces, visibility through events, or simply network and our experts. We don't have a fixed run time such as 3 or 6 months. We're always here along your entrepreneurial journey. That's it for the Venture Labs, very brief. I'm really honored to introduce you now to Andy and Michael, who are the founders of the Yope Foundation. I will start with Andy. Andy is an entrepreneur and impact investor and the founder of Konox. By the age of 29, he founded one of Europe's fastest growing tech startups and created more than 500 million in shareholder value. He was recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 and by the World Economic Forum for his leadership in sustainability and AI. However, Andy stepped back as CEO, focusing more on conscious projects and on sustainable investments with a positive impact. We look forward to hearing more about the background of this decision in a couple of minutes. So I'm really honored to introduce you now to Michael. Michael is a serial founder and an investor with more than 25 years of experience. He's a passionate creator who launched 6 startups with several successful exits and 1 IPO. He is best known as the founding CEO of Splunk, which was acquired by Cisco for more than 28 billion. Michael redefined success after he faced several burnouts. So we are really interested to hear your story, Michael, and like everything that happened on the way. A little bit of housekeeping. So we have scheduled a question and answer session after hearing from your journeys. So I would kindly ask the audience to please enter your questions via the question and answer form. So that's it from my side for now. I will now hand over to Andy. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your stories with us.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you very much for the organization. And I think there's a we need to also give a special thank you to you as a person who initiated all of that by reaching out via LinkedIn and just said like we heard what you do with the Yope Foundation. We heard that you're focusing on founder performance and resilience. And is there any way we can collaborate and share that to a broader audience? So without you, Lisa, that would have probably never happened. So thank you very much. And yeah, um, very happy to take on that journey. I mean, this is a journey that has a multiple, I would say, multiple sessions. Today is really the initiation, the starting session, and I'm super grateful that Michael took the time. And I'm also happy to share a little bit about my own journey. But I think I would like to start with Michael. If you think about founder resilience, and if you think about what was really the main thing in your own journey that you learned over the last 40 years or a little bit more as an entrepreneur. Maybe let's start with that and listen a little bit to your what really made your journey special, and when you the first time hit that edging point of where you said, yeah, I need to approach things differently.
Well, we just talked about it this morning with Lisa, right? You said, "How was your morning?" I said, "Annoying," right? And then you said, "Yeah, my morning was going great," and then I had this bump. But now I'm back to like giving some time here to all these entrepreneurs, so I'm happy again. But I think that's life, right? Like resilience is constant. It's not just for, starting companies, it's for your life in general, but it's being able to step back and always find the joy no matter what the situation is. I think that's the key. You don't want to be on like the roller coaster, the up and down all the time. You want to find something that's more steady. And when I started thinking years ago, I mean, actually, like when you had your health problem at Koenigs and I was on board and we were working together there, I started to think a lot about this topic of, the ups and downs of being a founder and really looking at building a company as something that's more like an endurance sport, right? Because the pressure, the speed, the uncertainty, it's constant. And for years, I think especially when you're young, you can try running on adrenaline, right? And I believed for a long time that, hey, this was the key to high performance. Just have to run on adrenaline constantly and then you're good to go. But it wasn't like that wasn't how to be successful, right? That's how to like crash and burn constantly. Um, and what I realize, I think, through my own experience, through your experience, through what we've built at Yope so far, is that it's not so much about like trying to avoid burnout. It's more about how do I get the best out of myself and the people around me over a long, long period of time, right? Because I mean, you saw Lisa's chart with all the different areas that TUM and TUM and the Venture Labs are in, and the kind of stuff that you and I enjoy working on. Like these like deep, innovative technology ventures, they take a long time to build. It can be 10 years or more that you're at your company. And for the founders who are on here, I would say you ought to think about it that way, right? Don't think about this as something I'm going to do for a year or two or three or five. Like think about 10 years of your life, like a good chunk of your life you're going to be dedicating to the venture that you're working on. And when you step back and you think about it that way and you look at how do I get the best out of myself, the people around me, we like to use this analogy to, of course, founders need to think of themselves like elite athletes. Elite athletes, they train, they have good nutrition, they have good sleep habits, they have good training habits. When they get injured, they don't keep pushing, they back off and they recover. And that's why they're able to do what they do. And I think as founders, we have to start learning from disciplines like athletics, and figure out how can we be in the game for longer, performing, at really elite levels.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. I think this is yeah, this is such a nice comparison because ultimately, if I would have this, and this is I think a big part of my personal motivation, if I would have had that advice earlier, I mean, there's two sides of it, right? Receiving advice, listening, and taking it into action, and on the other side, just not. It wasn't a theme, right? I mean, you were in the early days of Silicon Valley with all the when all the big companies are started, and I think and I was probably more of the first wave in the European market where there wasn't such an ecosystem. Unternehmertum wasn't 500 people, it was like maybe 5 people when around Helmut, and no, back at the time also the impression was like you have to like give yourself up. You have to like push hard every day, every weekend. And then I was believing that, and I think your body gives you signs, I think ultimately growth will always just happen outside the comfort zone. This just the nature of growth. But ultimately, not listening to the signs of your body and like an athlete, back up and recover and make recovery as a core aspect of everyday's routine, everyday's life, I think your body will never be sustainable working. So, and I think if we look at the statistics of that Lisa mentioned, with more than 70% of founders suffering from mental health, physical health issues, and I know from a lot of like unicorn founders out there that are also famous and stuff. I mean, nobody talks about it that much, but ultimately, if you want to run a sustainable company and make a big company, you need to sustain yourself as a leader.
Yeah, I mean,
Because if
I think it's a bit of a self-selective group though for like mental
yeah,
problems, right? Because to
yeah,
to to be a founder, you have to be a bit crazy in the first place. So, um, the people around you constantly saying, "No, that's impossible. No, don't do this. No, you can't do that." You have to be a bit inside of your own head to keep pushing and to keep going and to have all that confidence. I think that, the key is like you were saying um, early when in your career, in my career, when I started, when you started, we thought that resilience meant you got to push harder than everybody else. You got to sleep less, you got to work more, you got to refuse to quit. But you realize after doing that many times that resilience is not that, right? That's like strain, that's stress. That's not resilience. That's only one side of it. Resilience is more about it's more about being in tune, right? It's more about precision, like making the right moves and the right decisions at the right times, and feeling like, as you always tell me, feeling like you can manage your energy, right? Because
mm,
you only have so much energy every day, every week, every month, and you really need to get in tune with yourself about managing your own energy because it's not an endless resource.
mm. That's so true. So the aspect is, I think, and this is also something I would have loved to learn earlier, is like every day, right? When we say we give our best, we give it all, it's like ultimately, I think what people meant by this in a deeper way is you should give your personal best, but your personal best means whatever is your energy of today. And if you don't have much energy today, then you need to align your day towards how is your personal best looking like today, and not what it was like maybe yesterday or the day before. And I think once you once you end your day and you can say, okay, now I gave a lot, but I didn't like give myself up,
Yeah.
and I didn't neglect myself, like whatever emotions, physical, and on all levels, right? Just gave your personal best, then I think ultimately you can sustain energy. Otherwise, if you go totally, that's like a workout, right? If you go totally overstrain, next day you will feel it, and that's okay for one day, and that's
Yep.
growth. But if you then don't take some recovery, then then it won't work.
I'm laughing because I did that yesterday and I'm feeling it today. I overdid it a bit. Um, but yeah, this whole idea that energy is infinite is just a myth, right? I mean, we think, especially when you're young, but it really when you're excited about something and you're working on a project, you're working on your company, you're so over the moon about the idea you're pursuing and the difference you can make in the world, you tend to think that your energy is endless. As you pointed out, and as you've taught me, it's not. And you really do need to think about building systems to manage your own energy and your own self. You know, we care all these systems as founders and our companies to manage our companies, but we don't create things to manage ourselves. And if we're supposed to be the heart of the company, we always say it's about people, it's about people. Ideas are so easy. You need people that can really, execute. Yeah, you got to figure out how to take care of yourself first, right?
What would you say? And I'm very happy to share mine as well. What are the major tools you use, and how do you apply them in different situations, right?
Well, these are all things you've taught me, so um
Unfair question.
I I think the biggest one, if we were just like to stop the podcast or the webinar now, I'd say the one thing I would want to leave people with is obviously like taking care of yourself, and we can unpack that and talk a lot about what that means. But I would say secondly, like just moving from what I call the grind to the flow.
Mm,
As entrepreneurs, we want to, like I said, work harder, sleep less, like we think, hey, we always have to be on. That's the way things get done. But what I found is that puts you in this mode of grinding where you just think, hey, a few more hours in front of my laptop, the problem is going to be solved. But in reality, the answers often to the things that we're trying to get done don't exist, right in front of us. They exist with external things and forces and people that can be brought into our lives. And so being in the flow means moving away from that grind to being open to other sources of input, other people coming into our lives, other influences, maybe things that we hadn't considered before. And I think that's the greatest source of resilience, is if you can move from that grinding mode into the flow mode. um, you really find that resilience becomes much easier.
mm. Wow, that resonates. I think talking, and I think this is the reality of life will always be that you're not always in the flow, but it's, I think resilience for me also means to have that awareness when you basically are not in the flow anymore. And then what do you need to do to get back into that flow of work when things are aligning, right? And you feel like it's an you give energy, but you receive energy in the day-to-day work. And I think
How do
the
you how
big
do you do that? What like I
mm,
have I have kind of a couple of tools I use, but what is your big go-to? Like when you find you're getting grinding and you're spending too much time in that mode, how do you kick yourself back into the flow mode?
mm. Also, for me, it's my favorite tool, and we will in the next webinar learn about more about that. Is breathwork by far, because it's like it gets me out of that mode of like I need to do this, because it puts you in the mode of like I need to give myself, even if it's just 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And it's also the thing at the Yope Foundation. We start every meeting with a moment of mindfulness, which happens to be 95% breath work. And no, it really puts me back into, okay, a mode of clarity, because I feel mainly when I'm in this grinding mode and I need to get this done, I'm I'm lost. Like I'm not in that.
Yeah.
I'm not actually clear what I truly want. And I think we're living in this time of abundance where you have AI tools that can actually do a lot for you. once you have the internal clarity. So it's more of I think that's my main tool in the during the day. But I think what is really getting in my daily routine is really the morning where I like instead of kind of running to my laptop like I did in my in my Konux days without like out of bed on the phone, uh, checking all my messages from all the different country entities and stuff, back to a mode where I'm now waking up, taking care of myself in that sense of doing a small meditation, writing down my thoughts, and then do my workout in the morning because then I already did everything that I want for myself. So I put myself first to be centered, and then yeah, I mean, life happens. Then sometime, and everybody who starts a company will experience that there are times where it's going to be tough. There are things that perceptually go against you. But ultimately, if you're staying centered in yourself, then you will basically be able to work with them. And that's, I think for me, that's the ultimate part of resilience, right? If you're just like it's stress happens every day. You will
Yeah, I
be
mean, like,
stressed.
what did you think you were going to wake up and there weren't going to be any problems to solve today? Like, what fun would that be?
Yeah, so that is like the whole entrepreneur energy is gone. I mean, I went through that. I went through a phase in my life of 2 years where I tried to hide behind all of that, and then thanks to you and Klaus, I got a different experience again, just to see that ultimately it's like if you're hiding away, you're like hiding away is not the solution. As I think most entrepreneurs that also went through an exit or like also made some money. It's like ultimately you're gifted, you're blessed with a certain gift in this lifetime. So I think it is even if you want it or not, in one way or the other, you have a mission in this life, right? And so I think t tapping into that responsibility and it's not a negative responsibility. It's actually fun, as you said. It's motivating. It's energy giving. You take energy, you give energy, and I think those tools are really like for me the balance that brings me into balance. And without them, I think I get into miserable states. With them, I see myself not as never happens, but it happens way less than it happened in the future. I was once writing in my journal, I was like, my Konux, 7 years of Konux, I probably had like my best, I would say my best night's sleep, I would say would be now like maybe the best free time sleep during 7 years would be now definitely on the worst 5%. So it's
Yeah. Yeah, we did. I know that we're going to do a thing on sleep here in a couple of weeks, but we do this thing with all of the fellows that we work with at Yope, where they'll get one of these, Whoop devices, and so we
no
look
problem.
at the first couple of weeks they're with us on how well is everybody sleeping, and the goal is essentially every year to move people from 5 to 6 hours a night sleep to 7 to 8 hours a night sleep, and what a difference that can make in your intellect, your creativity. Um, and think about the business that we're in today. I mean, especially in the AI era, right? Like all of these founders, you're in the business of creating intellectual property. You're in the business of creativity, of building amazing products and user experiences, customer experiences. Like you can't do this if you're tired, right? It just doesn't work. And figuring out that getting 7 or 8 hours a night sleep and being so much more creative and creating much better IP, maybe only working 6 or 7 hours a day rather than 8 or 10 hours a day, is infinitely more productive and allows you to conserve more of your energy as well. This was a big revelation to me. This took me a long time to figure out, but once you get there and you experience it, you're like, yeah, I was really stupid. What was I doing? I was kind of like showing up at work drunk every morning. I mean, basically, like skipping a night's sleep is essentially like showing up at work drunk, right? And it's not
Mm.
fair to you, it's not fair to your coworkers. So I definitely can't say I recommend it, although I did it a lot, but I cannot recommend it.
Yeah, I think this comes down to also what we trying to transmit in the in our fellowship at the Yope Foundation is really about if you are able to, like, when people think about what's great leadership, what is leadership about, I think you just nailed it, because it's about if you are able to lead yourself, which I think is the hardest challenge of all these challenges in terms of
100%.
leadership. But if you really manage to do that, then I think the leading others will become so much easier. Because if you're resilient, right? If you, like, imagine that scenario, you're not, like, you're in the meeting room and the CEO comes in, and the CEO is completely, like, angry and hasn't gotten a good sleep and has problems in his relationships. Like, it doesn't matter how good the meeting is prepared or whatever. It's like it's going to be a
It's gonna
shitty
be
meeting.
yeah, it's gonna be a bad meeting for sure.
It's like I would actually leave them. No, but I think that's the core essence of, it's like true, like, and I think resilience often starts with awareness. And this is why we at the Yoga Foundation give people those devices to really learn about what's the status quo of yourself. And it's hard to really be so in tune that you feel it every day. I think
Mm,
this is why those devices help you to give a little bit of us more of a, next to your feeling, it's more of a data perspective on how is your body actually, your physical body actually feel. And then I think that create from that awareness, action follows, right? But if you don't have awareness on what data should you act on, right? This is the most of the entrepreneurs that I hear are working with tech. So it's like that's a foundational basis. And I think once you start realizing what you need for yourself, probably your compassion, your understanding, your emotional intelligence to really feel what others need will just increase. So you will automatically, just by leading yourself, be a better leader. Because even if you just go into the meeting and your competitor just launched that new feature and you think, oh my God, that will basically might kill us. If you're going in with a yes, we can do that, we focus on ourselves attitude into the meeting, or you go in panic, what will be better for the company?
yeah, definitely. So back to, tools. I mean, you're like the master of tools, right? Like if you guys want to know anything about meditation, breath work, journaling, Andy is the master of journaling. Like this guy, when I go visit you in South Africa or in Munich, I see on your desk or on the kitchen table in the morning, you've got like 20 pages of notes. And I'm like, wow, this guy writes a lot. Oh, that was all this morning? This guy writes a lot. Um, for me, I like all those things, but I would say the biggest one for me is getting out in nature. Like
Mm,
when I'm really feel like, and I'm actually kind of there right now because I've been working on a project all weekend. I was working on it yesterday. I had to get this thing done. Um, and I feel like I'm kind of in the grind, right? And the biggest gift I can give to myself today after chatting with all of you guys is get outside, get into nature, like for at least 3 or 4 hours. I don't really want to see people. I just want to hear nature. I don't want to have my headphones on, like hiking, biking, doesn't matter what it is. And that's going to be my reset. And that just, for me, that just really works well.
yeah, I think that's super important, because the aspect of what is your tool, and as there's because there's so many, right? There's so many great things that can help you recenter and reshape yourself in that, and it will be different for every individual, but it will not only be different for the individual, it will also be different for the phase of life you are in, right? I think
Yeah.
this is why really exploring and getting to know yourself, what you need in different situations is really key. And so that's why I would also, when people ask me, it's like, what is the best tool? I'm like, there's no best tool. There's maybe
No,
your,
when
yeah.
my answer to that is always like, just go try things, be open to things, right? Like, do things that you might think are a little silly or that you might be a little afraid of. Like, step out of your comfort zone and try something. Um, and if you try it once or twice and it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Like you were saying, not all these tools work for everybody. You got to find the thing that works for you.
Mm. And I think with that, it is, this is also, I think there's also the perspective of, for most founders, and I think it's important, the major focus is the company. And I think it's actually a necessity to success to really have the the majority of your energy focused on the company. Though there is more in life than just the company, right? There's your friends, there's your relationship, maybe you have a partner, there's your health. And so I think ultimately understanding of you, if you only do that one thing, right, it doesn't, like, you can have 95% of your energy going to your company. But if you neglect the other parts of life, I think there's one very wise man, which is Michael, at the very first meeting, when in 2012, when I was a student at TUM. I was going to a talk, the first talk that Michael ever gave at CDTM and Unternehmertum back at the time. And we, like, somebody asked him, I think, the question of how can you, like, what was the financial best decision in your life? And Michael
Yeah,
responded with, "Do you want or should I?"
go ahead.
No, so he responded with, "Just get married once." And there's a truth, there's a big truth in that. It's like, if you focus on whatever, wherever phase you are in your life, right? Having a partner, having um, a
Well,
husband, a wife,
just
and
co-founders too, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's so important. I know so many solo founders in the Valley, and I've never written a check for a solo founder because I've never seen it work very well. I think it's, you know, it is like a team sport. It is like playing a sport, starting a company, and you need other people on your team to lean on
Mm,
because, you know, not every day is going to be great for you. Not every day is going to be great for your co-founders, but if you take all those days together, somebody's going to be having a great day on every day, typically, and that lifts the spirits of the whole team. And you need that. It is very much a team sport.
mm. And that's very, that's a very good point. I think this is
I'm having
also,
my green juice handy. Okay,
yeah,
I'm
it's
listening
like
to you.
creatures too. It's like we didn't plan that, but it's like healthy routines. It's like, well, maybe we should get sponsored here for Tomb from 81 or
Right.
Biogena or whatever. It's like we should work on that. But I, coming back to the topic of resilience, I think, and what I try to, the point I try to make is really consider your life design and what is important for you and what you need. If you figure that out in your 20s, uh, you won already. Like, you won already in
Can you
life, right?
imagine? Can you imagine if we'd have figured that out in our 20s? Holy shit.
Then
That
it's
would be
like,
amazing.
yeah, it would be. And I think, and this is, there's so much truth in it, because once you change, right, the culture changes in your company. If you are treating yourself in a, I would say, more respectful, loving way, they will treat the other people in a more respectful, loving way. And that means your leadership change, your culture change, your values change. And then it's, because ultimately it's not with like, you know, that with values and everything, it's not what's standing on the wall. It's about your actions and your response to life every day. And ultimately that counts. And this what people will say, and this will people will look at that, and then will people will act exactly how you react and respond, because I think a company is also probably the biggest mirror of that you can get as a CEO, and your
I
team behavior as
I like
well.
that. I like that analogy. The company is like a mirror, right? And I think one of the things that you guys did really effectively in the early days at Konix was you figured out how to make that mirror that was the company something that was much bigger than yourselves, even like much bigger than your industry. The whole mission of Konix became how to scale the most sustainable form of transportation on the planet, right? Which is rail. I mean, the only more sustainable form is the bicycle, right? Um, and when you guys created that mission and you sort of climbed outside of the founders and the company and even the industry, and you said, hey, we are here because we're servicing something that is like on a societal level, on a global level, right? I think that contributed a lot to the resilience of the company as well, right? I mean, that company has had like ups and downs as well, selling to government tenders, to railways. This is not an easy business. Um, and I think that that service of something outside of yourself, outside of your company, outside of your industry, really gives you a great feeling every day that you're doing something that is so important to the world, and is so selfless that you can kind of deal with the ups and downs better.
Hmm. I think this is just something, and it's a great reminder, because I think for everybody who's listening, as a founder, right, is there's a very sensitive and vulnerable question. Is your mission and vision and the alternate future you create really, truly, and truly, truly inspiring yourself? And if the answer is, I don't know, I think everybody knows what to do next, right? You are, as founder, responsible to create that alternate future, to create that vision that inspires you. Because if it doesn't inspire you,
Yeah.
how should it ever inspire anybody else, any of your employees or your market, your investor, your customers? It's like, so I think this is when people are too busy with working on that alternate future. It's like, that's probably the biggest mistake you can do. And this probably is the biggest harm that you're actually doing to the success of the company at the moment. I think, and you put that, and I think we're at the Yope Foundation. You go through a whole exercise that is led by Michael that I went through like a decade, more than a decade ago. It's really how do you create that alternate future that makes you wake up with a, it's like I want to work on this, right? And I think it's so important for yourself, because purpose is actually giving energy a focus, and it becomes laser. It can go through everything. I mean, we sold to government entities during our time selling cloud solutions when every customer was like, no, we want on-premise, and shaping tender laws. It's like every obstacle becomes kind of a challenge that you want to take on. I think this is the motivational power and the energy that can be unleashed when you really create that future. I think this is, I personally, very personal perspective, I think that's the most powerful thing that actually every of the award winners of the Yope Foundation get, because this was, I think, such a game changer for us. Because in the beginning we were like a sensor company, and we wanted to build better sensors, and then Michael basically told us in a nice way, it's like, this doesn't interest anybody.
Yeah, nobody gives a poop, right? But when you tie it to scaling the world's most sustainable form of transportation, all of a
Mm.
sudden, Andy's on a plane with Angela Merkel to China, right? Like, I mean, the thing just explodes. So, yeah, another, lesson on resiliency is like you don't need to come hang out with us at Yope. You can just take this away, which is tie what you're doing. I mean, to Andy's point, you got to be inspired. Like if you're not inspired, yeah, go back to the drawing board. But once you're inspired, tie what you're doing to something that's important and happening in the world, and climb outside of yourself and your company and your industry, and make your mandate a global mandate to change something. You'd be surprised at how much easier it is to raise money, how much easier it is to hire people, how much easier it is to get customers. Like everything just starts flowing when you figure that out. I see Lisa's here. She's probably going to bring either a sponsorship ad or some questions. I'm not sure.
Exactly. I'm here for the question answer session. And I had a green smoothie this morning as well, joining the club. Thank you, Andy and Michael, so much for your openness and for sharing the tools you use. I'm sure a lot of founders could relate with the challenges you described. Now we would like to open it up to the audience. Please feel free to enter your questions via the Q&A function. We already received a couple of questions. So I will just start reading the first question.
You can skip the ones from my mom.
Which ones are they? So, how do you differentiate between good grinding and bad grinding? How do you assess yourself and check whether you are putting the energy in the right activities, and where do you draw the line?
It's funny you say that, because I said I was grinding right now and I had this project I just finished, and just reflecting on my current state, I would say, yeah, watching my whoop and going, where is my sleep is my first checkpoint, right? And I know the last 3 nights my sleep is not nearly where it should be. So for me, that's kind of the first guardrail. Like the sleep is going, ooh, not good. If the exercise starts going, ooh, not good. Is the nutrition going? Ooh, not good, right? How are you feeling in general? Then you can back up and take assessment of that, right? I think for Andy, I know it would be if he ever skips his morning routine, like nothing gets in the way of Andy's morning routine. So if ever Andy has skipped his morning routine, I would say he's definitely in the grind. Something's going on there, right? But yeah, I would say you have to figure out what things are guardrails for you. But I think for everybody, like sleep is the most important one.
And how do you pull yourself back on track if you realized this? I think then it's really hard to go back to your habits. How do you do that?
Well, here's the thing where experience matters, right? Because when you go through this a lot, and you're not just grinding, but you've been through several grinds in life where they got so intense that you crashed, then you become aware that, okay, I grinded to get this project done, but now I'm like the injured athlete. I need to back off. I need to recover. I need to go back to those tools and those things that help me get back into the flow state and take advantage of those. Like I said, I need to get out today. I mean, I'm in London today and it's kind of cloudy but not rainy, but I definitely need to get outside anyway and get into one of the parks and go for a nice long walk or a run or a bike ride or something, right? And that's going to be my reset that will get me back to, okay, let's get 7 or 8 hours sleep tonight.
So it's about setting boundaries and then prioritizing
100%.
recovery, right?
Yeah. And look, it's not to say that you're not ever going to grind. I mean, we all have deadlines, we all have points in our lives where we're just like, damn, I got to get this done because I know nobody else is going to get it done and I need to step in and make this happen. Like, that's life. Like I said, what did you think? You would wake up and there wouldn't be problems to solve today or works to do. What fun would that be? But yes, you have to know what your own limits are, right? It's like Clint Eastwood said, a man must know his limitations, right? And it doesn't mean that you're not strong or you're not a great founder, but it means you're focused on that resilience and that flow state and that being in tune, so that you can perform better for longer, and build a great company.
Thank you so much. So I will move on with the next question. What is the right amount to focus on competitors? Comparison is the thief of joy, and yet strategic awareness is key too. Who wants to take this one?
Oh man, Andy, I really want to take this one. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So I think if you have figured out something that really inspires you and is really going to make a difference in the world, you should never think about competition. It's only going to drag you down. And we had a policy at Splunk where we never, ever mentioned internally or externally a single one of our competitors. And it drove our competition crazy. Even when they copied our website verbatim, violated our patents, like we didn't talk about our competition. Sure, we sued them and said, hey, you can't be doing this because you're violating our patents or you stole our copyrights or whatever it was. But we never mentioned them in the press. We never mentioned them in conversations internally or externally. And it allowed us to establish ourselves as a category of one as a company, right? So I think if you can't do that and you're always running around thinking about competition, you probably are not working on something that's important enough yet.
I just say comment, amen.
Just wanted to ask, Andy, do you want to add something?
No, it's like it's so true, right? What are you in a how do you define with that alternate future, that vision you want to bring, how do you define your own category? And if you ever ask about from a VC or later stage when you raise a couple of 100 million and so on, you just say, right, these are the comparables from different categories that, but we are our own category. So, I mean, giving you the example, I mean, we use data analytics companies as comparables for multiples for Connex. Were they our competition? No, but they had a principle of the same business model. So I think there's the and do if there's one feature that a customer, because I think putting the lens not on the competition but the customer is key, right? If your customer requests, hey, I in this other app or in this other or this other company in this other license, I have this and this feature that's really great. It would be amazing if you have that too. Suddenly you have it on your product roadmap, but it comes from the pull of the customer, right? Because you want to truly build what they need. Because I mean, the reality of every startup and also of your competition is like you need to be like everybody tries to do their best in their own capacity, and so other companies will not have the master plan, and you're the only one not having it. It's like everybody is in the same boat of uncertainty, and I think this is why focusing on your own boat instead of looking at every other boat while your ship is sinking is just not a good idea. So I can just
I
echo what
remember
Michael said.
we got to the point with like version 3 of Splunk, which is about 5 years in, and we were looking at a version 4 and planning, and we were planning on like, those are kind of like 12-month release cycles at that point in time because it was a pretty big software product and we had a lot of enterprise customers. And I looked at the feature set and the product roadmap for the version 4, and 90% of it was stuff that we were doing to add features to compete with competitors. And we took the whole thing, ripped it up one afternoon, and threw it out and said, no, we're going to start all over again. Like 90% of the features on our product roadmap should be things that make us unique that nobody else does. That's what customers are paying you for. They're not paying you to do what competitors do. They're paying you to do something that is completely unique to you in that category alone.
That's really clear and very helpful. Thank you so much. We will go on with the next question. How do you express vulnerability to teammates to open a conversation about founder energy and resilience, to secure the space and the agreement to care for ourselves and to push back against the hustle at all cost expectation that peers, teammates, and the wider market may have?
Oh, wow. I would love to take
This
that
is
one
definitely
first.
for you, Andy. I suck at this.
Yeah, last second, I gotta say, no, I was like, I think ultimately when when you think especially I think it's true for male and female in the today's business world. It's like some people still have this old belief of vulnerability is weakness. I think vulnerability is a superpower because if you enter a room because it's leadership, right? It's leadership to yourself. If you're vulnerable, that means you're opening up on a whole different level to your teammates, to your company, and about whatever is your current state. Vulnerability is just describing your state. And if your state isn't great and you try to hide it, you will cope. What will happen? You will get easily triggered, you will react angry, you will like the whole thing, the whole uh, downward spiral kind of starts. But if you start showing up and saying like, today I feel this and this, and I would need your support because I might go through breakup. I might go through whatever happens. Like in life, we face different challenges, and we're human beings. So it's like not that we're like robots. It's like we have emotions, we have feelings. So opening up that conversation might lead you to a whole different place. Because guess what? If I say today I don't feel really well, I might not be able to do this. Can anybody help me? Guess what? How the reaction will be? The reaction will be you will receive help because you open up for help. Mostly the mind game in my own experience, and also I mean I was there not trying to show any vulnerability in my early days, which was big mistake lesson I would have learned earlier, is once you open up for that energy of help, then people will just be there for you. Your co-founders will be there, your investors will be there. And I think ultimately you change expectation. In your mind, you might think, if I do that, then people will react in a different way. I think just try it 3 times, 4 times. I will 100% bet that you will receive support instead of receive blame. It's just a mental self-talk that most people still have in their mind going on, which is, I think, just wrong conditioning. And you don't do yourself a favor, and you don't do your team a favor. So I think that is kind of in, and there was the question of how do you put it into agreement. I think it's just about agreeing with your co-founders, like we're there for each other, truly and fully, and we are committed to manage our own state. If you do this, 99% of your problems with your
Yeah, what's
co-founders
actually
probably
what's
disappear.
actually cool about it too is when you do that and you open up, other people will start opening up as well, and other people will start asking for help as well, and then it becomes something that is communal. And it's a little awkward at first, no doubt, but I mean, man, you guys went through so much stuff as founders at your company, Andy. Like, three of the founders had like major health problems, and you guys were all young. It was crazy, and just bizarre things that happened that nobody would have ever expected. Um, and sometimes it's forced on you, but I think if you can instead establish that as like a charter amongst you and your co-founders, that can be super powerful. Right?
Hmm.
Thank you so much. We have time left for one last question, and I selected one which includes parenthood, which is an important topic as well. So here's the question. Do you have experience with female founders who were at the same time pregnant or in early motherhood? What it meant for you and how did they handle it? And I want to expand this question a bit to not just female founders, but to parents in general, right?
Should I start and you continue? But I'm not a father yet, so maybe Michael can also share from his own experience founding a company with small children, and being a father. So we've definitely experience with that, and I feel that during that phase, right, the reality of your life shifts because you have that you're basically brought into a situation where maybe you say your focus number one and your priority number one might be challenged in a good way because you're now responsible for a new human being that is just that depends on you. And there's no neglection to that. There's no way that you can just say, no, I like in work, in the company, you can say, maybe today I take a day off. Wait, your baby might give you the experience that you wish, but you you won't. I think the reality is just really taking here more care of yourself, having an open dialogue with. If you try to show up the same way like you showed up before being pregnant, being a father, being a mother, you just, I think, neglect yourself. You neglect your own reality. And I think it's so important here, coming back to the vulnerability, just to be open that your reality changed. And this is and embrace that new reality and design it. It challenges you to design your life in the way you want. If you neglect your child's, well, I think your whole life experience also will be very different. And if you neglect the company, it also will be different. So I think it's all about finding that balance but just that awareness in the first step is probably the advice I would give is think you need to recenter your priorities in that moment because it is done automatically. And if you don't acknowledge that, and if you don't have an awareness that you need to change your life in that moment to a certain extent, then I think you're not honest to yourself. And then by that, you're not honest to others. I think there's thousands of ways and I think there's great female founders out there sharing more and more. I think one of them is Veronica Vax, and another one is Judith Dada. They are sharing about how is it as a mother. I think there's more and more founders that share about their fatherhood experience. I think there's models for everything. Find your authentic model. Like find your authentic tools to recenter yourself. There's an authentic model that works for you. That might be support of a nanny. That might be support. This might be, yeah. It can have very different forms. But just don't neglect it. That your reality is changing because then reality will hit you hard.
Yeah, that's good advice. I believe you need to do a reset on this whole idea of work-life balance. I think this is a joke. There is no balance. And I see successful people, including myself. I had my boys were 2.5 when I started Splunk. Um, it's more for me about work-life integration. You're spending so much time building a company that the idea that you can just turn off your phone, you know, go home, leave your laptop at the office, like this doesn't happen, right? You need to figure out a way to integrate your work and your life. And as you guys know, if you're founding a company, you're all in on this. It's 100% of you. When you can find a way to integrate that with the rest of your life, it becomes really joyful. Otherwise, it just feels like friction all the time. So we had like when we started our company and we were just, we were tiny, we had no money. We just, a bunch of the people, the co-founders, like bought some board games and we put them in a room and we had a little table and, I brought my kids to work and it was cool because people could see, hey, there are distractions in life other than just like grinding all day on the computer, coding or whatever we were doing. So I would encourage people to think about how you integrate your family, including, even young family members into what you're doing with your work, rather than resisting and trying to make it seem like, oh, these are two alternate realities that I'm trying to live in, and I have the stress of bouncing between one and the other, and which one am I in? And it gets back to the question you were asking earlier, in terms of opening up and asking for help. The more you do that, the more you integrate, the easier it is to be open with your co-founders and your other team members about things that are taking time in your life that you need to attend to that are important to you, right? It won't seem as foreign. So I think kids can be a great influence, absolutely. They're just such a great reset. I mean, as Andy said, they scream for attention and you can't really ignore it, right? So it becomes this I mean, for me, when my kids were born, it was like this light bulb that went off, and it's like, oh, wow, it's so amazing. It's not just about me and my company anymore. There's something else in life too, right? So I think it can be a de-stressor in some way.
I agree. So thank you so much for sharing the insights, your learnings. It's been so valuable, super interesting. We are almost at the end of our session. I will hand over now to Andy, who will provide an outlook of the next sessions. The questions for which we did not have time now, we will post the answers via LinkedIn post from the Yope LinkedIn account. And here I will, in the chat, post already the link for our next session, but Andy will talk more about it now.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you. Also, give a special thanks to Michael, who after a time of grinding still had the energy to come here and inspire and share his learnings. And I think it was every I just wrote down like journaling guy that I think I learned myself a lot, and somehow those reflections and those reminders are it's a constant theme. And I think resilience, as you mentioned in the beginning, is ultimately a constant reminder of how you show up today, how you show up each and every day, and also that some days are not so great. And I think I personally take a lot of a lot from that session, and I think and I hope that's true for everybody. And yeah, so first of all, a small applause in your own room for for Michael, and thank you for giving up the time. Thank you very much, and giving us the time. And now, yeah, I mean, on the 11th of November, 11/11, easy to remind us, like at 11 o'clock CET. There's another great friend of Michael and my, and a great entrepreneur coach who worked with the different unicorn founders across the globe, from Hanno from Personio, and then started his own company. It's Regulate, which is all about regulation and self-leadership. And so we will have Peter as a guest. I think everybody who have ever experienced him, got to know him, wants to get more of Peter. And I hope you will, yeah, take a lot from this session today. And then we will have the next session, and followed by that, we'll always have amazing founders, amazing, I would say, yeah, human beings that had a great life journey on resilience in their own journey. You will, yeah, see more well-known faces, and I think each session is worth it. And if you don't feel like it's worth it, just let us know because we're trying to just give our energy, give our time to share what we would have loved to learn earlier in our lives.
Yeah,
Amazing.
we're just on this train of life with you all. So,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
learning as well every day. And um, like Lisa said, feel free to ask us questions. LinkedIn's probably the best way to get in touch, and we will do our best to respond.
Yes, and so if you haven't checked it out, check out the Yope Foundation if you're a founder. And we select 10 teams every year to really give you like an award of 100K, cool coaches, cool mentors, and yeah, I think I would describe my own journey with Yope as a life transformation and life-changing experience. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy it, and stay resilient. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.